Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us. You are attending the Leasing Data and Insights to Drive Planning and Budgeting for 2025, hosted by the Anyone Home team. We're so excited you're here. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to get logged in. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and grab yourself a drink, cup of coffee, snack if you'd like. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We've got a lot of really cool information to share. We're really excited about this. I'm excited about sharing it. I love just digging into the insights and understanding kind of what's the landscape of multifamily today. And we've got some really cool things that we've uncovered. So we're going to be sharing that in just a few minutes. Just give us a couple more minutes, let everybody get settled in, logged in, and then we'll get started here in just a few moments. All right. I see some more people trickling in. I think we'll go ahead and kick things off, though. This is being recorded, so if you do want to refer back to it later or share it with somebody in the future, you can, of course, return to this. I'm so excited to be working with y'all and just chatting about this today. This is a really exciting topic. We have got a lot of cool information to share, a lot of neat things. I'm going to be really transparent and honest with everybody up front. One of my worst characteristics is that I'm not a great multitasker. And as much as I'd love to have a dialogue with everybody that's joining today, I think that would probably be too chaotic for me to be able to handle. There's some really amazing hosts that are out there that have done such a phenomenal job of being able to do that in tandem. Unfortunately, I lack that skill. So what we have done, though, is we've put together a Q&A session towards the end of this webinar. And I want this to be as much of a dialogue as possible, but because I lack those skills, I am going to ask that everybody go ahead and go down to their Q&A section and just be familiar with what that looks like. So if you want to log a question, if you want to just put that in there, we'll come back to it. We'll circle around to it. We've put aside plenty of time towards the end of this to be able to make sure that we can cover as many questions as possible. And if for some reason we can't get to your question before the end of the webinar, we'll be sure to follow back up with you after and make sure that we touch base. So just be familiar with that. And if anybody has any questions, be sure to log that in there. So, okay. I think that's enough housekeeping for now, unless you all want to do more. We have a really full schedule lined up for today's webinar. Lots of exciting topics to cover. I want to start out with introducing our speakers and our panelists. We want to talk about establishing why things matter or why this topic is so important in the current market environment we're all operating in today. The key goals we want to focus on with our attention here today is identifying the key leasing data insights, specifically on the conversions across the leasing funnel, what we've seen successful that is leading those lead to leases and maximizing your workflow, and then the role that technology is playing in this process. So we're going to tie out all of our time today with the data that ultimately means and what it means for you and the suggestions on what we think you should be doing. And then in closing, we're going to present a little bit of a sneak peek demo walkthrough of the systems itself that we recommend. And then we'll kind of tidy things up with that Q&A session and hopefully have a really successful time together here. Okay, so moving on to the dream team that we've assembled for you today. So first and foremost, my name is Joel Nolf. I am the customer success manager here with Anyone Home. I oversee the account management team. I have about 20 years of experience in multifamily. I've spent the last 10 years working with Anyone Home directly, and I work specifically with our account managers and our customers and clients to ensure alignment of their operations with our entire suite of products. I collaborate with all of the teams internal here at Anyone Home to ensure that all of our clients just remain completely successful in their current multifamily climate. So that's who I am. Please also welcome Dr. Adam Lucero. Dr. Adam Lucero has 12 years of experience in data, including the last 6 in multifamily industry with Anyone Home. Adam is the director of our data and analytics. He's deeply involved in all aspects of data and reporting. And today, Adam will be exploring some of the trends in the data that uncover the stages and aspects of leasing, the leasing funnel, and how you can increase your engagement and conversion each step of the way. So, Adam, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Hello, everyone.
Following up, Adam, we've also invited Austin McKnight. So please welcome Austin McKnight. He's our product manager with Anyone Home. He has 7 years of experience in multifamily, and he is just managing products that have several award-winning products or award-winning products on his side. So, Austin, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Good to see everyone.
All right. Before we dive into the data and talk about the insights from our leasing data, I thought it would probably be helpful to spend maybe a few minutes talking about why it's vital to look at leasing data and to gain insights about how to perform better in 2025 and why it matters considering the current market environment that we're seeing here today. So the outlook for 2025. In terms of new supply, occupancy, and rent growth, it definitely shows an expectation of improvement. At the national level, the delivery of new supply is peaking right about now. But between this quarter and the next quarter, there will still be more units delivered than can be absorbed in general for the US market, especially for some of the high supply markets in the Sun Belt. So this will mean that your lease ups for new supply will continue at least into the first part of 2025. And this will continue to put pressure on occupancy and rent growth. Many analysts are actually expecting rent growth in the high supply markets to turn positive in a material way, or not turn positive in a material way until really the second half of 2025. So that means for the folks in Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, and Arizona, some of your metropolitan areas still have some very robust development pipelines that are expected to be delivered in 2025. So it's going to take a little bit longer into the year to see occupancy stabilize and rent growth really return. So without much in the way of rent growth, drum roll, the leasing season for 2025 will be similar to the leasing season in 2024, where properties will need to dig in and focus hard on converting every lead that comes through the door. So the compounding challenge with occupancy and rent growth is really the outlook for expenses in 2025. The continuous rise in operating expenses, including payroll, has and will continue to put considerable strain on our multifamily operators. That means expenses per unit have been rising more than 8% year over year since 2022, and we're actually up about 8.6% year over year by mid-2024. So while inflation is starting to stabilize and centralization initiatives are having an impact, expenses are expected to continue to rise in 2025, meaning property budgets will remain really, really tight. There still won't be likely be funds available to increase markets or front office staffing budgets. That means that properties will again need to meet occupancy and rent growth goals by working harder and smarter to convert more of the leads they're able to generate to leases. Since this probably isn't really news for everybody here, we're hopeful that you're going to gain some insights on how you can improve conversion rates across your leasing funnel by attending today. So we're going to pivot now, and we're going to focus on the goals we intended for you to walk away with from today's webinar. So our hope is we want first to provide you with some benchmark data around lease conversion to help you see where your properties stand, to help set reasonable goals for improvement, and also to potentially serve as input to 2025 budgeting conversations, particularly around marketing, staffing, and technology. So that's goal number one. Number two, we're also going to be digging deeper into a few places that will help you identify the most impactful areas your team can focus on to drive higher conversion across the entire leasing funnel. Then three, we're going to be sharing data about the impact that different technology and operating models have on driving leads and conversion at all the various stages of the leasing funnel. And for those that don't have solutions in place, like chatbots, self-guided tours, video tours, or call centers, we'll provide some metrics that can potentially help build a business case for you or help you defend your business decisions for investing in those types of solutions. And then finally, we'll end by taking a sneak peek at the technologies that are helping properties outlease the competition today. Okay, so this brings us to the exciting part, the data insights that we've uncovered. So Adam, before we dive into the data, it probably would make sense to talk a little bit about maybe where the data comes from and what all it includes.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. So yeah, I'm very excited about this data because the current model is the result of multiple years of trying to figure out how we can view the lead journey at the aggregate level and sort of pick out those trends and understand what the lead process is like for the lead. So this data is compiled from all leads initially inquiring at multifamily properties from April 1st, 2024, all the way through to July 31st. So we chose this time frame because we've seen that this is the peak leasing season, which historically started towards the end of May, but we've been shifting. We've been seeing that leasing season sort of shifts earlier and earlier. For these leads, we combine data related to their channels, communication types and frequency, tours, and leases. We really want to understand the lead journey from an aggregate level and allow the data to define what are those important stages of leasing, of the leasing funnel, and what actions taken at each stage ultimately help increase the probability of that lead turning into a lease. We typically see that the lead lease velocity is between 30 to 50 days, but that can extend further beyond that. Up to 100, 150 days. So being close to mid-September, there will be about 3 to 5% of leads that in July they're not fully baked, but that won't affect these results because on average everything will stack up to the leasing data trends. All of the data was analyzed in two ways. We're looking at leads. We wanted to look at leads at that lead level and their trends. And then we also looked at it rolling up all leads by property to see what differences are between these properties and understand the properties that have the highest levels of that lead to lease conversion, what they are doing different than the others. What are the differences in the playbooks of these high performing properties compared to the mid and low performers? And this way we can provide some benchmark data you can goal set around and see where we can help bolster and empower your on-site team to analyze those impactful areas that can be improved. So in aggregate, if you look on the slide, this data includes over 4,300 properties, 1.5 million leads from that time frame of April through July, 360,000 tours taken by those leads, and 130,000 leases that ended up occurring.
So this is by no means a small sample set. This is directionally accurate with a broad scope.
Mm-hmm. And the most up to date that we can get accurately.
Okay, thanks, Adam. And I guess to further set context, I did want to talk just a minute about the leasing funnel. So when we talk about the leasing funnel, we're talking about the activity that happens from when a prospective renter fills out any sort of inquiry form on a website or an ILS site, or just calls the leasing office and provides their name, contact information, usually some information about what they're looking for in an apartment, and then maybe the timeline of what they're interested in renting. So from when that first inquiry happens, we find that the funnel has kind of three main points at which a prospective renter either continues to move through the funnel or they fall out of the funnel. So those 3 points would be: one, do they book a tour or not? This could be any type of tour, an agent guided tour, self-guided tour, video tour. If you have one on your website or a virtual tour in which the leasing agent can take them through a unit on a video call. Then the next point is whether the prospective renter either completes the tour or doesn't complete the tour. And I guess the last point would be whether or not they sign a lease. So not that this is a bit simplified version of leasing funnel, but it allows us to kind of talk about those key points at which your team can have the most influence on moving prospects from one stage to the next. Adam, any context or anything you want to add about that?
Yeah, so looking at the lead journey and the lead engagement process from the property agent standpoint, these stage goalposts come out as big indicators of increasing interest in that lead and or their increasing probability of completing to a lease. Typically, people want to look at increasing lead velocity, right? How can I get a lead to move in faster from when they first inquired? Because moving in faster means less days that agent has to engage with that lead, and they can move on to a new lead. So people want to know what products or tools can help me get them to move in faster. Does allowing them to self-schedule a tour immediately get them to make that decision faster? When we approach this and we analyze all types of leads, the channels they use, the playbooks implemented across all those leads, we found that there was no significant difference in when people move in. Typically, people move in, like I said, 30 to 50 days, and people are going to move in when they're going to move in. And that kind of makes sense, right? There's so many factors outside of our control that dictate when somebody moves in, their job, their life events, when when that unit becomes available, what their current situation is. So there's only so much that we can affect. So instead of focusing on optimizing an individual lead journey, we try to think about it differently and said, we want you to think about the leasing funnel in terms of these stages and what you can do to maximize the amount of leads that enter the funnel and continue on to the next stage. The theory being that if you instead focus on what should I do to convert this lead to the next stage, and then how do I get this other lead who's in the second stage to get onto the next stage, eventually that'll mean more leases. So how should you be engaging leads that are in the inquire stage? What tools, automations can you put in place that allows a lead to build interest to the point of taking that step to booking a tour? So detaching your focus from a single lead and trying to follow their story throughout the whole funnel, and instead shifting behavior to classify leads into these stages and define playbooks off of those stages. If a lead's in this stage, this is what I do. If a lead's in this stage, this is what I do. It's similar to thinking about Instagram and Facebook ads, right? Companies have different marketing strategies for top, middle, and bottom of the funnel. At the top of the funnel, they make short, riveting ads that are designed to grab your attention immediately, because at that point, you're just kind of, mindlessly scrolling. They know they have 3 to 5 seconds to get your attention. If you engage with that ad, you watch the whole thing, visit the company page and sign up to an email list, then they move you on to mid funnel. Then you're, at that point you're interested. Now, if you're scrolling through Instagram or social media, you won't see the same ad that you saw before. They'll probably target you with a more mid funnel ad that's a bit more technical, a bit more detail. And then if you engage with that ad, then you go on the website. They have other strategies to get you to add products to the cart and then make that final purchase. So applying that to the multifamily, it's about designing tailored campaigns for each stage that allow leads to trade in their own currency and at their own pace and build their interest, so that way they continue through the funnel to a lease. Focus on getting more leads entering the funnel, and then at each stage, more of those leads converting to the next stage of the funnel.
Got it. So actually, the way I'm picturing this at each of the stages, I'm thinking about almost like we've got these levers of control, and whether or not our strategies align with, do we have controls to be able to move those people into the various stages going forward. Okay, that's really cool. Okay, well, let's dive into the data. Adam, can you talk maybe a little bit about what you're seeing in the data for conversion rates across the funnel and maybe the various stages within the funnel?
Yeah, of course. So first, let's talk about overall what we're seeing on average with the data. First, we're seeing that out of all of our customers and all their properties, about 8.7% of the 8.7% of the prospective renters that fill out a guest card end up signing a lease. This means that on average, during the 2024 prime leasing season, properties needed 12 people to inquire to sign one lease. Diving a bit deeper, we saw that about 39% of prospective renters who filled out a guest card booked a tour, and of those booking a tour, 76.5% completed that tour. So a little better than 3 in 4 people completed a tour. And then those completing a tour, 29% went on to sign a lease. So this, of course, is the average at each stage across 4,300 properties. So individual properties could see a lot of variation, but as a starting point, it's helpful for beginning discussion about how your property is performing relative to this. So, to talk about sort of 2023 and to look at this in terms of average top and bottom performers, that 8.7% that we saw in 2024, that's down from 10% in 2023. So in 2023, you needed 10 people to get one lease. In 2024, you need 12 people to get one lease. Conversion rates have dropped from 2023 to 2024. No surprise given our occupancy drop. So we need to be doing everything we can to convert these leads now heading into 2025 when there will still be oversupply in at least H1. Diving in a bit deeper, we saw that about 39% of prospective renters who filled out a guest card booked a tour. For the top performers, you see that the overall lead to lease conversion rate is 16.5%. They convert at better at every stage. These organizations only need 6 inquiries or 6 guest cards filled out at the inquiry stage to get one lease. The bottom 25%, when we look at the bottom 25% of properties, they have an overall conversion rate of 3.5%. And if you look at the funnels, the top performers have a higher conversion between each stage. So comparing that top 55% from inquire to book a tour, for the bottom performer, that inquire to book a tour is 28.5%. The interesting thing about this is the starting lead count is actually more for the bottom performers than it is for the top performers. So to kind of say that in a different way, the top performing properties who have more leases, the key seems to be in optimizing the conversion between each stage, because they have more people moving from inquiry to booking that tour, more people actually completing that tour, which leads into more people signing leases.
So we were just talking a little bit about like the levers, and how we see people kind of advancing through with different levers. If we were to focus our attention on that first stage, the inquiry, what would you suggest are the most significant levers in that stage of leasing?
Yeah. So, looking at this, the first thing is you need to get people to book a tour. And we see that properties that offer multiple tour types have more people booking tours. If you look at this slide, you'll notice a few things. Conversion rates are relatively close between all of the tour types. Now, agent guided tours are still dominating. They have, more people are taking agent guided tours than that are taking other tour types. If you look at the pie chart, 65%. But also, this is all properties, and a lot of properties are not offering all 4 tour types, or a lot of properties even prefer that leads take agent guided tour types because they believe that, oh, if I can get the lead, if I can take the lead through the tour, I can convince them to sell more so than not. What we found is that properties who offer more tour types, they get more leads coming into the first part of the funnel. Like we're saying, if you can get more leads at the first part of the funnel, then you can get more leads converting to the next part of the funnel. So say you like a property online, you don't know if you want to commit to going to that property in person, but you can take a video tour or a virtual tour, and then that convinces you to commit to an agent guided tour. So that's a lead who otherwise may not have wanted to commit to signing up for an agent guided tour, but they're like, oh, let me just try a virtual tour, right? With self-guided tour, what we see is some leads like to initially take a self-guided tour or an agent guided tour, and then they end up taking the other one. So the leads that take more than one tour type are 72% more likely to lease than those who took an agent guided tour alone. So, right, like if if I go take a self-guided tour and I'm interested, I want to ask questions, then I book an agent guided tour. That shows an increase in my in my interest in leasing, and then I have a higher probability of actually leasing. So leads that took 2 or more different tour types were 79% more likely to lease than those that took that agent guided tour alone. All tour types point is in comparison to just having an agent guided tour. So if you offer multiple tour types, not only increases the leads entering that funnel, but allows the leads the opportunity for more exposure to the unit, increasing their engagement and probability of converting to the next stage, that next stage. And then if you look at that first metric there, 115% of those who book a tour are more likely to lease than those who don't. So it's important to gauge that lead interest by getting them to book a tour, and then allowing them to interact and engage with your property in the way that they want to, and then getting them to actually show up to that tour, and then getting them to that increase their probability of actually leasing in the end. And then on the next slide, you see that that inquiry stage, the most important thing is answering the phone, right? And what we saw in the data is if a property let just 10% of first-time calls go to voicemail, then they were likely to have 28% less tours booked than those that answered every call. If a first call is answered by the contact center or by a call center over the property, the call center schedules 27.9% of the call center scheduled tours at a rate of 27.9% higher than the property. The property scheduled tours at 11% of the time. So 87% more tours are scheduled by contact center versus the property. When analyzing calls, call center agents ask prospects to book a tour 68% more than on-site agents, right? So that makes sense. Call center agents, they're not focused on getting that lead to lease. They're more focused on getting that lead to book a tour. That's what they're trained for. So 98% of the time they ask, hey, are you interested in booking a tour? Versus if that call goes directly to the property, that's only 68% of the time. Or sorry, 76% of the time, or 48% of the time, with the top performers only asking 76% of the time.
Interesting. Okay, so once the tour is booked, how do we pull the lever and get them to show up?
Good question. So it is important to get those leads to show up, right? So booking that tour is just that conversion from inquiry to that booking tour step. And then we need to get them to actually show up to that. Otherwise, they fall out of the funnel and their probability of converting plummets. So you see that first metric, 63% of those who complete a tour are more likely to lease than those that schedule a tour but don't complete it. And so our CRM allows automated reminders to go out to every lead. For every 100 scheduled tours leads that get reminders, 10 more will complete the tour and 3 will sign a lease. So that's what we've seen in the data is if a lead gets an automated reminder, that's just by trigger, and you can just do that. You can set that up in the CRM. They're 10% more likely to actually show up to that tour. Now, of course, if an agent sends an email or an SMS and reminds them, then they're 21% more likely to show up for that tour. But the thing is setting up an automated reminder takes no additional effort. And again, the goal is just to convert them to get more people to convert to the next stage. So the completed tour stat is calculated as 17.5% of people that book sign that lease. Yeah, sorry, that's that metric. So
cool.
Awesome.
I was just wondering, from a technology standpoint, like how do we mix this in the plan? Like how do we make this all like work together?
So what we saw is we analyzed all the properties and what products they're using. So getting leads into the funnel, right? Which products are actively using a property that so we looked at properties that have just CRM as a base. What we found is if a property adds just chatbot on top of that CRM, then they get 23% more leads. Chatbot is a very effective tool to capture prospects who don't want to commit to calling or emailing indirectly, and want that immediate engagement. Again, like what you want to do is think about like how can we capture the most leads possible? You want to cast the widest net. So if somebody's online on your property website, you know, if they have to go through an email form or send an email, or if they have to put in the effort of making a phone call, they may decide not to go through that step at all. But if you have a simple chat bot that they can engage with right away, the data shows that that increases the amount of leads that that property gets at that inquiry stage. Adding self-guided tour on top of chatbot and having CRM yields 73% more leads than just having CRM alone. So similar to chatbot, depending on how self-guided tours are implemented, a prospect can potentially schedule and complete a tour within 0 to 2 hours. You know, they can capturing those leads who don't want to wait for an agent to be available. You know, there's some people who, you know, you're interested right away. You see a unit, you have time right now. I'm going to go see it right now. Not, oh, I want to schedule a tour within 3 days and wait 3 days for an agent to be available. So as we saw before, so capturing those leads who don't want to wait for an agent to be available or want that ability to tour without the pressure of having that agent present. Properties who add contact center on top of chatbot and CRM, they get 113% more leads in CRM alone. As we saw before, contact center answers every call, preventing voicemails, and allows for a wider mouth at that top of the funnel. Finally, having all 4 of the products leads to 163% more leads than just CRM, than just properties who have CRM alone. The combination of all the products continues on the theory of allowing prospects to trade in their own currency and meet you where they feel comfortable. So it's no surprise by adding these technologies, you have more inputs for getting more leads. You allow people who, you know, who have little time, or people who are planners, or people who want to tour on a whim. You allow all these different ways of getting these people into the door and getting that first inquiry. If a CRM only property has 100 leads, then on average, 9 of them will convert to a lease. The same property with all products will start with 163 leads and end up with 14 leases. So looking at how these technologies affect scheduling tours, right? So that first step is getting them from not knowing who you are to inquiring about your property. But again, how do we get them to actually book a tour? So properties with chatbot, in addition to CRM, have 41% more tours scheduled than CRM alone. Prospects can get answers to their questions, and chatbot can help them schedule a tour right away directly in the chat without having to take the time to call or go through some other process, right? Again, if I'm on your website and I'm already engaging with the chatbot because I had a question about your pet policy or something, and then the chatbot says, hey, do you want to book a tour? And then I can book that tour immediately within that chatbot and not necessarily have to call the property or send an email asking when there's availability. Adding self-guided tours on top of that leads to 146% more scheduled tours than having just CRM alone. Again, more tour types means more tours. Properties who have contact center and chatbot on top of CRM have 166% more scheduled tours than CRM alone. Contact center agents are trained specifically to schedule tours, so it's their focus to sell a tour to a prospect and get them on site. Finally, combining all the products shows a 271% increase in scheduled tours than those properties that just have CRM alone. These products help get more leads into the funnel, but where they really shine are getting those leads that your marketing team worked so hard to get, spent so much money on attracting to the property to actually book a tour and move down the funnel.
So it sounds like we are really talking about packing in each stage of the funnel and kind of creating like this downward pressure towards converting a lease is essentially what's happening. So Adam, how do we boil this down for the audience? Why does all of this data matter, and how is it going to be impacting each of us?
Yeah, so to summarize, when we think about the lead funnel as stages, and that's each stage needs personalized campaigns to get leads to flow through the funnel and onto the next stage, you really need to look at your playbooks and make sure that everything's aligned, and that the things you choose to implement and focus your on-site team and energy on are the things that encourage leads to get to that next stage. Some of these things that you can be doing are low-hanging fruit that don't cost much extra, right? One, focus your attention at driving conversion at each stage. If a lead is inquiring, focus on getting them to book a tour. Like, don't even start thinking about, is this person going to lease? Should I be spending my time? How can I get them to lease or not? Your only concern should be, how do I get this person to book a tour? So that way, once that tour is booked, your only concern then is, how do I get them to show up for this tour? Yeah, how do I remind them? If you start focusing on leasing too early in the funnel, your strategy and playbook won't be the most effective at optimizing stage conversion. And looking high level, you'll end up with fewer leases per month. Two, answer all your phone calls. Putting your phone number out somewhere where a prospect can see it costs money. Don't let that money go to waste by not answering that call when it comes in. Think about it from the prospect perspective, right? They are spending a block of time in their day to find a place to live. You know, I'm here at my computer. I have an hour break, and I'm gonna, you know, look online, look at different units around my area, and I have just this limited time to call before I have to get back to work. If you don't answer, then somebody else will, and that somebody else is going to get that book tour. Three, optimize all agent channels or inputs for booking tours. Does your website encourage people to book tours? Is booking a tour simple? Do you have a self-scheduler on there, or does a lead have to email you to ask for that tour? Time is money, right? If I can't immediately figure out or navigate your website so I can book a tour, then I'll go to somebody else's website, and the probability of you getting me to convert drops drastically. Don't leave things to chance. Same goes for all the channels. Are they set up so that it's intuitive, quick, and easy for that prospect to get their questions answered? And are they encouraging you to book a tour to come to see the property in person? So four, segueing from that, have all tour types available. If a prospect doesn't want to commit to coming to your property to tour with an agent, can they do a self-guided tour? Can they book a virtual or video tour while they decide if it's worth their time to come in person? Also, treat video tours as a tour versus just as a YouTube clip. If you make them feel like they've already invested time in taking a tour, it's less mental effort for them to come and take an agent guided tour and come on site. You've encouraged them to take that next step. Five, add chatbot to your website. People are increasingly learning to engage with chatbots to get simple questions answered, which increases the likeliness of capturing your website visitors in the funnel. Chatbot is also built to ask people if they would like to book a tour and schedules that tour all in the same step, moving leads down the funnel with no additional effort from on-site teams. Six, once that tour is booked, set up reminders to go out at specific intervals by either email or SMS, reminding people that they have a tour and when it is. You know, get that accountability. If you have time, or if you think that lead as a is a high priority lead, then give them a call, or get them to confirm that they are coming to the tour, so that way they complete onto the next stage. These are the things that you should be doing and thinking about at driving conversion to drive conversion at each stage. Look at all the channels and campaigns, making sure that they're all optimized to capture leads, entering the funnel, and converting them to the next stage.
Adam, you make it all sound so easy. There's a lot of good stuff in here though, and it's all on point. I think I'd like to go ahead and jump over at this point, recapping what we've covered so far, because it's just a lot to digest. So we first wanted to provide you all with some benchmark data around the lease conversion to help you see where your properties stand and to help set reasonable goals for improvement. We then had the opportunity to dig in deeper on a few areas to help you identify the most impactful areas for your team to focus on where they can drive higher conversion across the leasing funnel. And then finally, we've shared the data about the impact that different technology and operating models have on driving leads and conversion at all of those various stages in the leasing funnel and the levers that you can pull. So, Adam, wanted to take a quick pause. I want to express gratitude. Thanks for you being here for us today and sharing your expertise around the data you've presented. That's a lot of work that you put in there, and we just really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Austin, I think it's time to do a little sneak peek on the Anyone Home technologies and how we can provide some of these people with a better user experience using the Anyone Home systems.
Yep, definitely. So I'll let you in on a secret. Adam's kind of the theory guy. You see it. He has the PhD behind his name. He's kind of the number guy. Uh, but I'm going to be the one that shows you what the heck you can do about it. So he gave us a number of problems. He gave us some kind of maybe ambiguous solutions, but I'm going to show you some things you can actually do today, right now, or maybe tomorrow. All right, so I am in Anyone Home CRM. I'm on the dashboard, and the first thing we talked about was widening the net. Okay, that's really cute. That's a cool idea. But when I widen the net, I kind of create a problem for myself, which is now I have a lot of leads and I don't know where to go first. So I'm going to give you two things for that. The first thing is if I'm an agent and I'm logging in, I'm going to stick to my next steps. That's this window right here. So as my organization has built out my playbook, it's going to populate the next steps. And my next step are essentially what my organization is telling me I need to work on in order. So here I have 6 tours that need to be closed off. They need the results, so need to know what to do with the lead. As I move forward, I can see that I have some messages I need to respond to. So instead of jumping into CRM and run around like a chicken with my head cut off, I'm going to hone in on my next steps. But maybe it's not a Monday, maybe it's a Tuesday, and I've gotten through all my next steps. Naturally, a lot of people are going to jump into the unassigned leads. Uh, but if we widen the net and you look at your unassigned leads, now I have a big list of leads. My eyes are kind of going cross-eyed a little bit, trying to figure out, most people are going to try to figure out which one's new, which one's old, which one have I touched last. I'm kind of looking through. Well, let me reverse that flow for you for a second. I'm going to go to a unit instead. And when we're talking about the fact that I can't really manipulate that move-in date, the school year ends when it's going to end, or my prior lease is ending when it's going to end, or my in-laws are going to kick me out when they're going to kick me out. I can't manipulate that move-in date, but I can widen my net and find people that fit our move-out dates with their move-in dates. So instead of going to my leads and looking at a giant list of leads and kind of doing a beautiful mind of, okay, well, which one has this unit and which one has this move-in date, I'm going to let the CRM do that beautiful mind little chart for me. If I look at this unit here that's available, I'm going to click on Fit Leads, and my leads are scored by the leads that are the best match for this available unit. So you see up here at top, I have some good stuff. I have some 9.7s, it's out of 10. If I go down, I have some 7s, all right, and then I have some 6s at the bottom. So if I finish all my tasks and I'm trying to figure out who would it be worth my time going after first, these 9.7s, that means the price is right, the move-in date is right, this is the bed and bath count that they need. It's worth a phone call to those 9.7s. 6s, I don't know. I'll show you another unit. So let's look at this guy. And if you look here, not a lot of good candidates. I got a 4, I got a 2, I got a 1. I'm going to let the automation go after these, or I'm at least going to go after these last. So I can hit my 9s first and kind of work my way down. That way, instead of taking the 30-something unassigned leads and going from the top, I'm focusing my efforts first on those hot leads. So when we're widening the net and now we've created more leads for ourselves, this is a way I can narrow my focus and figure out where I need to go first. But we have another issue with that. Okay, so now we have more leads. We need to figure out where am I going to look, but now I don't have enough hands. And automation's easy, but I need to figure out where to put that automation. So I'm going to walk you through a playbook that will give us a few more hands, but also this is going to be a hybrid playbook. I'm going to take the lead funnels that could use a human touch, and I'm going to make that into a human playbook. And I'm going to take the lead funnels that maybe aren't worth the human touch, Maybe there's a few gyms in there, and I'm going to create a more automated playbook. But before I do that, I'm going to run a report to figure out what funnel to do that on. One thing that's cool about our reports is that when you look at it, depending on kind of how you run the filters, this report is more like 5 reports. If I just run it at the basis, I just see a bunch of properties and a bunch of leads. Okay, that's nice. But I can change this to turn this into a source report instead. And I can figure out what sources are performing the best, what sources have the best conversion rate, and which sources are going to get kind of the automation track here. So if I look, I can see Apartment Guide has a pretty good conversion rate. Apartments.com has a pretty good conversion rate. Craigslist, I'm getting valid leads. I'm getting leads. Everything's filled out. It's a real person. I have a lot of info, but the conversion rate on Craigslist is not that great. So I'm going to give Craigslist the conversion route for automation, and I'm going to give the other ones more the human element. Another cool thing before I leave this report is the report can also go by origin, and I can see how the contact center is comparing to the chat bot. So I can look at the leads that come in through those phone calls to the contact center and see how those are converting versus how the chat bot is converting on the website. So this report is really a really strong workhorse that you can use to plan out what playbooks make sense for you. Okay, we've learned about where to focus if we're an agent. We've learned about how to look at my different funnels to figure out what playbook I want to do. Now let's look at the playbook itself. For this, you need to be an admin, more likely than not. So if you're an admin, great. I'm going to show you something you can do. If you're not, talk to your admin. Or also reach out to us too. We are always happy to help you with your playbook and figure out what makes sense to you. We love to dig in with you, look at your data, and find that playbook that makes most sense for you. To get there, you're going to go to settings and triggers. Triggers is where we build out our automation. And you can see here, I have my normal playbook down here, but then I've built out this Craigslist playbook. And what I've done to make this a hybrid playbook is I've made sure that every lead that comes through Craigslist, so any lead that comes through Craigslist, as soon as it's created, I am going to get a tour invite email. Now, we saw in the report, the likelihood that they actually tour is honestly not super high. So I'm going to send an email out. I can also send a text message out as well. Just depends. I can do both too. I can send an email and a text. You can layer on trigger actions together, and I can have this do both, just cover all my bases. Okay, so now that's going out to everyone. Again, Craigslist wasn't converting really well for me. Nothing against Craigslist, it just wasn't. But what I'm going to do to turn this into a hybrid playbook is anytime someone does book a tour, I'm going to pass this over to a person. So what I've done is if there is a showing booked through Craigslist 3 days before the tour, I'm going to pass this over to an agent, and the agent's going to get a call task. And so now you're hitting 2 points. One, you're getting that reminder in there. So in the last session and in the session earlier, we talked about how if someone gets a reminder, they're more likely to show up, common sense. But if the reminder comes from a real person, if it's an organic reminder, then that really increases your potential. So by taking this hybrid playbook and having the system automatically send tour invites, SMS stuff. When something does bite, now I can put a person on this, and I can increase the likelihood that they're actually going to show up to the tour, that the tour is actually going to go well, and that someone's going to actually move in. So that's super cool. And that way I've built out my normal playbook, but now I've carved out this separate other playbook. So that I'm doing automation where automation makes sense, and then I'm looping in a human where a human makes sense. Another thing we could do just to layer on top of that is after those, either after the call or after the tour, I could also set up another trigger to go right after it. I can make it specific for Craigslist, so that, again, we're continuing that playbook that's unique just to that source. And I can have a text message go out after the tour. Thank you for the tour. I really appreciate you spending time with us. We'd love to see you again. And so that way you're keeping up that hybrid model of human touch, but I'm also, giving my team a helping hand, and maybe helping with that burnout a little bit too, giving your leasing agents, like a third and fourth hand to help them out, get them through their tasks for the day. All right, last piece I'm going to look at with you guys is how to widen the net. So we have a lot of ad sources everywhere, and one key with ad sources is to make it interactive so that it's lead generating. A lot of ways to do that. On this website that I'm showing you here, I have our schedule tour widget on it, and I also have our AI-driven leasing assistant. One thing that's really cool about the lead generation for the leasing assistant is because it's organic. The leads that come through the leasing assistant are more qualified. So for example, before I've even scheduled a tour, before I've even shown up in CRM, I can say, hey, I have a lab and I move in with my lab. So as I'm having this conversation, I'm getting my questions answered. I'm learning about the rental policy. I'm learning about the pet policy. I'm learning about the price point. So now through this self-service option, I'm able to self-qualify. So people that come through this funnel, we have enough information to score them. We know if they're a good fit. The person's informed the person. They know they are a good fit too because we've answered all their questions. So in this scenario, I asked about the pet policy. Of course, we love labs, so labs are fine. So I'm going to ask if I can schedule a tour. And it's going to let me schedule a tour. Here, I'm offering 3 different types of tours. So that's another point to think about too. This could work with just one tour, but you have the option of offering different types of tours. So here I'm giving them the option to tour on my own for a self-guided experience. I can do a guided tour, or I can do a virtual tour with an agent. That's where it's still a virtual tour, but I have a real person on the other end that's able to personalize it a little bit more and talk them through anything. Or I don't have it set up here, but I can also do a video tour as well. So the more tour options you offer, the more people that will actually tour. And I really thought that was an interesting point Adam had, which is that some people will tour more than once. They'll take the easy lower risk tour that I can just do from home right now or within the next hour. And then if I'm really serious, maybe I'll actually tour with an agent. So that's really cool too. All right, so that covers the things I wanted to show you guys. Hopefully that gives you some practical things to make use of some of the data that we looked at today. And now we're going to move on to the Q&A portion.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing that.
Of course.
There's clearly a lot of options. There's a lot of cool things that you can do in there. So thank you for kind of connecting the dots, so to speak, on some of the data that Adam shared with some of the more practical things that we can actually action off of here. Okay, great. Well, I think we should move into Q&A. We only have a few more minutes left. And I saw a couple questions come in. I do want to make sure we tackle those. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop those in there. We'll try to get to them if we can here, and make sure that we make sure everybody's taken care of before we get done. If we can't fit everybody in, again, we'll follow up with you shortly after, if you do have a question. So Adam, one thing that came up as a question, I think this is probably best for you. So as an anyone home client, would I have access to all of the insights that you've just provided, like on a recurring basis? Is this something that, was this like a one-time thing, or is this something that we're able to flex and actually provide to our clients regularly?
Uh, yeah, so this is something that that we're constantly working on and improving. And when working with we have a lot of these insights in our existing reports, but we're working on how to get that on getting that benchmark data in there. So that way you can compare yourself to those average properties and then see how you're performing month over month.
Okay, great. And I can speak a little bit for my team as well. On the account management side, one of the great assets that we have are your account managers who work internally with all of the benchmarking information. So if there is not data that's available in a go-to report that's already published, we usually can find it. And I'm working with them and supporting them to make sure that on a regular basis, they're meeting with their clients and they're providing those types of insights. And we're constantly asking for feedback on, oh, what's important to you? I'd love to hear more. So if you have any additional insights as an Anyone Home client that you'd like to uncover, we're all ears for that. Okay, let's see. Austin, this one might be a question for you. Does the CRM automation work out of the box, or does it require a lot of setup time from our team?
We
And then
do
there's a
have
follow-up question to that, but go ahead.
we do have an out of the box playbook. Our out of the box playbook is always changing depending on what we see trend wise in the industry. It is also self-service, so if you want to, you can definitely jump into your settings, go over to the triggers and see what you have going on. We also have trigger statistics so you can see how it's performing, and we also have some reports that give you some insight into what it's doing. So, yes, we set up an initial one for you. Yes, you can also tweak, change, create your own. Also, we love to just help you with your existing playbook already. We're always looking at different playbook approaches, especially if you have a change in your organization. Maybe you're centralizing a little bit. Maybe you have a new team. Maybe you have a team that got cut in half and you're trying to put something together to find out a solution. So, you can do it yourself, but we love to help too.
Great. And then there's a follow-up segment to that. We saw a lot of uh, prospect and inquiry options in the playbook. How well does it work with resident communications?
So we have some really cool resonant communication ones. I'll give you two examples that I really like. One that I really like is the office closure one. You can piece together a whole office closure automation flow so that all you have to do is from the dashboard, click create an office closure, and you can have an office closure playbook where it's going to let all the residents know, hey, it's going to close on this day. The day of, it's going to send something else that says, okay, reminder, it's closed today. The second it's reopened, it's going to say, hey, we're open again. And maybe if you want to do a lot, you can send a text the next day and say, hey, by the way, we were closed, but now we're open. So I really like that one. We also have some really nice service request and renewal based ones too that are really helpful on the resident retention side.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's see. I don't think I see any additional open questions at this time. So I think we can go ahead and wrap it up here. We just want to really say thanks to everybody who joined us. We really appreciate that you took time to kind of review the insights that we have here. If you do have any questions, you can reach us by email. We put them on the screen here. Feel free to reach out to all three of us or one of us or the better looking one. You decide. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. But yeah, that's all we have for everybody. Appreciate you all.
Thanks, everybody.